Hello friends, I'm really excited about today's video. I created a model to demonstrate how rotary motion can be converted into linear oscillating motion. Now this is the first time I've ever in the history of my channel made a piece or a model specifically for a video, and I'm really excited. I went ahead and made the basic stand before this video, and I'm going to show the last few steps in order to get the mechanical model complete. Here you see the pulley from the last video, and I went ahead and took it and drew two perpendicular lines to approximate where the center is. It doesn't have to be exact, but then I took the pulley and drilled a hole approximately in the center. There's a way that you can find the exact center with a compass and ruler, and I haven't done that in a while. I don't know where my compasses are. So I drilled a hole in the center for the axle to go, and then put this pulley aside for the moment. I took a piece of doweling I have in my workshop, and I cut the slotted end off so I had a flat surface. Then I did a trick that I often do where I took a thumbtack and used it as an owl. That's an AWL owl, to make a little impression so that when I drill a pilot hole, the bit will go right into it. And this actually works really well if you don't have an owl. Otherwise the drill would dance all around the thing. So then I drilled a pilot hole in the center of this, what is going to be a piece for a spacer to stop parts from rubbing against each other and creating friction. I made sure to drill the hole deep enough so that when I cut the section off, the hole would go all the way through. The center beam in this little stand was kind of loose, so I used some Elmer's glue to firm it up a bit and give it some stability. I then took the spacer that we made, put a screw through it, so that the pulley could be affixed to the stand and rotate freely. This little washer didn't quite fit very well, so I kind of used the rubber hammer to smash it smash it in there. I don't know what happened to my little jar of washers. I'm still looking for it. When in doubt, just smack it around. No, actually don't. Don't do that. It's good to have a washer between the screw that we're using as an axle and the pulley, because otherwise the screw could pull through the pulley, cause a malfunction. So it goes screw, washer, pulley, spacer, and then that all gets screwed into that hole you see there on the little stand. If I hadn't have used a spacer, the board would have caught as it turned and probably wouldn't have rotated hardly at all. Or if this was a more serious machine, would have quickly fallen apart. These are concrete screws from a job I did, a sidewalk building job, and they have this, I guess, probably hexagonal top or octagonal, don't quite remember. So there we go. Now the pulley spins freely. There's a little bit of play in it, but because this isn't a precise machine, it's all right. Here you can see how the spacer keeps the pulley from rubbing. Then I took some Gorilla Glue in order to glue in the piece of doweling that will be used to hold the eye hook through which the piece of wire for the lateral movement will be run through. Gorilla's glue is really great. Even a small amount goes a long ways. It expands as it dries to, I think, twice or 3 times its size and is super strong. Then I took another piece of doweling in order to make a cross member to go perpendicular to that dowel that sticks up from the stand in order for the eye hook to screw into. Looks like here I'm creating another spacer, this time for the outside of the pulley where the metal rod will attach and about which it will rotate. Also serves as a little crank to turn this little thingamajig. I took our handy dandy push pin again for our owl or whatnot in order to drill the hole. Starting with a smaller hole and then working up to the size that I actually wanted. This can get kind of tricky when you're drilling a hole through a dowel and the hole itself is almost as big as the dowel's diameter. That went on pretty good. Now we'll take some more Gorilla Glue to glue those two pieces together, and they won't be going anywhere. I still haven't found my regular washers, so I ended up bringing out this set of these awesome washers that are rubber and metal, which I got for my house roof around the stovepipe, and also to screw down metal on my roof that's coming up in a way that's more watertight. And I'm using that as a washer on the outside of the spacer on the outside of the pulley, which also doubles as a little crank to turn the thing. Now I'm taking a piece of K&S metal piano wire. This is one of my favorite materials. It's a tempered steel wire. It's known as music wire or piano wire. It comes in everything from hair thin up until about 2/16 of an inch, or that'd be 1/8 of an inch and bigger. But it's extremely strong, flexible, and will also keep its shape. It's a wonderful material. I've been using it since I was 18. The company is a family-owned factory in Chicago called K&S Metals. I'll put a link down below to their business. I really recommend the material. They also make girders and all sorts of things for models and modeling, railroading, just top quality stuff and good prices too. So the wire is affixed, and you can kind of see how it's rotating now. With the bigger pieces of piano wire, you actually have to heat them up with a torch in order to get them to bend, or you can use the element on a stove too, on the top of a stove to heat it up. But this is just hair thin stuff, and I probably would have liked to have used a little bit thicker diameter piece for this little project, but this is what I had around. And on this side of the mountains, there's not a place where I can go and purchase it locally. It has to be purchased online. Then I took this hook, and I couldn't find an eye hook around the workshop, so I'm going to shape it into an eye hook by using the vise to kind of smush it. And that will hold the wire in place as it moves in an oscillating linear fashion. I drilled a little pilot hole for the hook to drill into, screw into. Of course, the camera doesn't quite show the view that I had hoped for. There's lots of little cheats. So I took my vise to kind of smush the hook so that it would form a full closed circle like an eye hook. Otherwise, the wire would quickly fly out of its path of travel. It took a few tries to get the thing to smush all the way closed. Then I screwed in the hook into that little arm that comes up from the stand of the model. Took some doing to get it to go in because I only drilled like a 1/32 pilot hole. Should have been a little bit bigger, but it did go in. Thankfully, the piano wire is so bendy that I was just able to run it through almost like sewing thread. There we go. So now you can see why the outer diameter of the pulley doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, because the rotation point for the rod is going to be perfectly circular more or less anyway, regardless of the outside shape of the pulley that I made in a previous video. So now as one turns this pulley around, the rod goes up and down in a linear oscillating motion with a small amount of rotation, or kind of bobbing back and forth. This is probably one of the most basic mechanical movements, and machines everywhere use this sort of setup: the crankshaft in your car attached to your pistons, a oil well, pumps for water. There's probably thousands of instances every day where that you encounter where this sort of movement is happening. I wanted to put something on the end to kind of show what this movement is doing. I found this old toothbrush, which I keep around for cleaning things. Now, here's where we get into the artsy-fartsy part of things, because the way this wire is, how bendy it is, it's a little bit thicker than sewing thread. So it's very bendy, but it's strong and keeps its shape. And so rather than a straightforward repetitive motion over and over again, when I put this toothbrush on the end of that wire, I ended up getting sort of a randomized random motion, which is something we like in kinetic sculpture, and kind of shows the flexibility of a mechanism, that even a simple mechanism can communicate something, in this case, almost like fluttering of a butterfly, or it's like trying to brush your teeth, or dancing around and shaking around. It, whatever's going on, it made me laugh, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. Even though this was just meant to be a demonstration, it kind of turned out to be artsy a little bit in the end after all. You can see how the movement is unpredictable, even though we're doing the same rotation in the same plane over and over again, because of the different imperfections in this kind of handcrafted mechanism, and because of the materials used, there's a random motion regardless. So we'll say that this is Professor Bosch toothbrush. But watch out, because it might take your eye out too. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for being here. I really enjoyed making this little stand, and we'll see how this video goes. I might continue in this exploring of mechanical movements. Kinetic sculptor, every kinetic sculptor's favorite moment.